have to do it. It's in my blood. It's who I am. It's what I know.
I just always loved being in a band, man. And I feel like there is a need for original music.
Yeah, like you're kind of looking for some lightning in a bottle, but even if you don't find the lightning, searching is half of the fun.
Well, I'm still doing this music thing, probably a lot of it because I still can, even at my age. I can still do it. I'm healthy.
Why do I still do this? Because it's really the only thing I've ever really done consistently. You know, I can't stop doing it. You know, why do I do it? Because, you know, the easiest answer, because I love doing it.
This, let's see, I'm sure I have a bunch of weird things, memorabilia things. Speaking of that first Freaks cover, this is the original sketch for it. Oh, look at that. I haven't opened this thing up in a while.
There was always so much different varieties of music that were really kind of happening in my household. My mom was a bit of a disco queen. My dad was into, you know, Argentine folk music. Hard to say, you know, there's not just one kind of music that really made me go boom, other than rock and roll. You know, when rock kind of came into the being, I was like, whoa, what is that? You know, and that's when the path kind of pushed everything else to the side, and, you know, into the heavy rock world we went.
He blew everybody away. You know, he's already the rock star as a kid.
Earliest memory of wanting to play music, there was never any thought of it, you know, until one day hanging out at a cousin's for the weekend when my folks were away. Went to one of his friends and I found a drum set in one of the bedrooms, you know, so I kind of walked in and touched and poked and prodded a little bit, realized, well, that's what made that sound, and that's what made that sound, you know, and, well, that's what made that sound. And I thought, this is the best feeling in the world.
Well, he always had a drum set, ever since I can remember, and he played the drums a lot, and he was always a really good drummer.
5 minutes sitting on a drum set, man, change your life.
I was born in 1981 in Walnut Creek, California, which is like East Bay area. I started playing guitar pretty young, and I had an interest in music always. It was just there.
I've got some songs, and he takes me to like a room, and there's a party going on. He pulls out his Les Paul, but no amp. And he just starts fucking hammering out like all kinds of shit, and that was the first time I'd seen him play with no amp. Electric guitar at a party with no amp. And even at that, I was like, shit, ain't nobody play like that here.
Like, I would bring my guitar to school. We had this little like PV amp. It was like a 9-volt battery, and I would just like play guitar in the quad. Like, people would like gather around me. There's like, I have some pictures on my Facebook. Like, somebody sent me it. They're like, dude, look. And I had a huge crowd of people around me. I was like, damn. I was like, I didn't realize at the time, you know, because I wasn't like I wasn't the coolest dude or, you know, any of that stuff. I was pretty geeky, really. But like for me, it's like, how do you get the best bass sound live? You play the best bass head ever.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, nobody's gonna deny that my dad's tone on Montrose
Oh,
was
sick,
fucking
yeah.
insane. My dad was always in bands. People know my dad from Montrose, Sammy Hagar, Van Morrison, and many, many, many other bands. But like, I was always at band practice all the time. Like, I mean, tons of band practices for years and years and years. So, you know, he also was like, he didn't just give me like the best instrument. I had to like work my way through getting a good guitar. Like, it was like, you have to get on the honor roll was one of them. Like, I had to get on the honor roll at school. And then I also had to like actually be playing and interested in playing. And like, that was the other thing, is like, they were like, are you really interested in this? Because we're going to spend $600 on a guitar for you in 1990. You know, that probably was like $1,000 now.
So this is my dad's side of the family. That's my dad and his sister.
Okay.
That's his father, my grandfather. He was also a sax player in the 30s, I believe, with Jack Dorsey's band. They were in Chicago. So what made me want to play guitar was heavy metal. And in the early 80s, there were these music video shows like Friday Night Videos. And that was before MTV, and they were playing heavy metal bands. And the coolest sound was the guitar and the distortion, particularly.
So the first time I really remember Eric being super passionate about music, specifically with heavy metal, was when he was about 11 years old, which would have been 1986. And he was wearing this Iron Maiden t-shirt. He had his black guitar. And he had this kind of short, long hair.
And I saw all kinds of bands like Twisted Sister and Def Leppard and Motley Crue and Judas Priest, and they'd be playing them everywhere. And that's what sparked my interest in the instrument.
All he would do is play guitar in his room and learn all the riffs of all the different greats of the 80s with all the metal. And it was a great time to see him just absolutely obsessed with the music, and it just continued from there with the bands that he started playing in.
Well, I know he went to school for music. He studied it both in the Midwest and in the South. I think he went to school in Georgia for a minute for that as well.
I was probably playing it for around a year, or I had a birthday come up, and my buddy's older brother was going off into the military, and he was selling his guitar and his amp. And so I got a gift. My parents bought his guitar and amp, and I think a flanger and a distortion pedal, a Roland combo amp, and it was an Ibanez Roadstar, which is the same black guitar that Marty McFly plays in Back to the Future, the same model. So that's how I got the electric guitar and stuck with it ever since.
Honestly, I gotta say, I really admire him for being so true to what he really knew he wanted to do so early on.
Sitting in my room alone, it's funny how I know where you're going, where you've been, and when you're coming home. You walked away.
Lights out running. Coming at you strong.
Yeah. Music started off, I remember the first time music really hit me was at James Bond movie, and I heard Live and Let Die over the big PA, blew my nutsack into oblivion.
And my first memory of Nacho Joe was in 5th grade, and we were like best friends, and he introduced me to rock and roll. Basically, he had this epic album collection, and Kiss, Cheap Trick, Devo, Beatles, Kinks.
My bro was pretty instrumental in getting me into music. He was the first one with the Kiss albums, the Beatle albums, early 70s, mid 70s, and it's weird because he ended up steering off and getting more into sports, but I just would go and start plucking his albums out of his bedroom. Like, hey, you don't listen to that no more.
Without further ado, this is a 69 Roadrunner, 383. This is a 1970 Roadrunner, 383. 71 Satellite, small block, it's like a cop car. I got a 68 Coronet over there with a hot small block, it's like a cop car too. 73 Roadrunner up here, got Trinity. And here, 71 Chevelle, Malibu, 350, everything needs repairs. But I love it. Yeah, I grew up in San Diego, and actually the La Jolla area. And so growing up there, I was really close to the ocean and the beach, and that was kind of the big deal: skateboarding, surfing, kneeboarding, bellyboarding, everything. And so that's and then on top of that, music was in there too. So a lot of people that were doing music were also doing the surfing and all that stuff. So it just went hand in hand. You know, the teens, probably started when I was 14, and it's been ever since then. A little hit and miss. There's been times where I sold everything, started families and all that stuff, but it's always kind of been around me some way, shape, or form.
I guess some of the other older kids were like, hey, that guy plays drums and stuff, So it wasn't too long after that my doorbell rings, knocks, and there's Mark Abshire with these two other guys, and they say, hey, you want to play drums in our band? And I'm like, okay, sure, So they go, okay, cool. And they actually went out to the car and started pulling out the guitars and infiltrated into my bedroom to just an impromptu jam session. And that was the birth of Virulence.
But after high school, but there were older kids that had bands that we knew. And then he joined the band in that Fu Manchu, and formed Fu Manchu. And before that, it was Virulence was his band before that, and then they moved into Fu Manchu.
Virulence turning into Fu Manchu. It was lost a couple of people to try and bring in other people. That's when I came up with the idea, like, hey, it's a different group. We should maybe start it with a different name and restart it, So that was the reason why the name changed.
But we had some friends that were doing that stuff, and but he like I said, I think Virulence. I could be wrong. I can't think of a band. He did play with different people. Like, we had a friend named Kevin McKelvey who was like some sort of genius in his own way, and he was really good at guitar. And they used to get together and play all the time.
Still a bunch of the same key players that were in Virulence that ended up coming back into Fu Manchu later on, and the whole kind of cycle of that revolving door. But I think I came up with the idea of, let's come up with a name, and Greg and Glenn were in the band at that time, and it was those two guys who were the true geniuses that came up with the name Fu Manchu, and that's what stuck. In Search of Record cover was awesome, right? But it wasn't awesome until the space background dropped in. I will take claim to that one, you know? Like having the two cars and having the girl right there was a great photo, you know? But the moment we put in that space scene behind as the horizon, that's what made that record, in my opinion, whoa, look at that, you know? With that record coming out, then it came time to promote it and to go out and to play it, you know, which for me was the most exciting part of it all. And the road is great for some people and the road is not great for other people. So I think that the stresses that kind of imploded that particular lineup was because we got busy, we actually had to go out and do that work, and it was exhausting. You know, travel time is exhausting. And then all of a sudden you find these new freedoms, you know, and for someone like me, I love to have a good time, of course. So going to places that I've never been to before, being able to play music, meeting cool people, you know, I never really wanted the party to end, you know. I was like, what's going on with that? Yeah, what are you guys doing? And, you know, some of the other guys were like, we just want to go back to the hotel, you know. So I think that's just where that separation kind of really happened, you know, because then we used to be such a tight unit and we would, you know, drive to rehearsals together. We would go to shows together. We would always do things together as a unit. Now we're out there being busy and we're starting to separate, you know. And I think that's really what became the issue with that particular lineup. I mean, I had like things that never saw the light of day. Wow. You know, never even finished that. Very cool. Going to art school, all that kind of stuff, you know, but then trying to like really apply it for the band, you know. But, you know, those guys are a hard sell, man. Like,
Yeah, well, yeah. This is good stuff, man.
You know, making, you know, Fu Manchu posters, like I said, when you have to like color separate and old school style.
You know, just be a guy from Fresno. Like there's no bands here, man. Like there's no music thing here. Nobody cares about the valley as far as, you know, music goes, unless you're playing country or Spanish rock, maybe, or Spanish music.
When I first met Trev, he was hard into indie rock. Very exquisite taste in indie rock.
I wanted to play metal, but there was so few people even out and about playing. There wasn't really many underground metal clubs. That I wouldn't find for a long time. I met some people, again, through playing in punk bands. I met this dude, Matt Sargent, and he knew a guy in Sacramento that had a record deal. That led me to this band called An Angle, and man, was I ever out of place. First time in my life when I went into a room of people and was like, oh boy, we're on a different planet, you know?
Before this, Trev rarely had any angst to him musically. He refrained from any macho shit. You don't like that.
I wanted the gig because it had touring involved. Okay. And I just really wanted to be in a band that went on tour. Like, I wanted to see what that was gonna, you know, be. Cause, you know, I'm like, what do you expect? You know, I'd done tours, but it was like so close. I'd never driven all the way across the country. You know, like, so that was the first time where Trevor Church went from California to New York City by van. So it was really, and you know what, it was necessary, it was needed. I needed to do those things.
So it was very surprising amongst his peers to be like, what, this fool's playing metal now? He has the chops, obviously, but he wasn't going right here. He definitely can do it on the fret hand.
It was hard for me to kind of like, I kind of lost sight of the goal of like what it meant to play music, because it's so hard to do. You know, you do it time after time after time. You have to meet guys to play with. You have to rehearse. You have to record. Now you have to, you know what I mean? This process, I had done it so many times at that point, and then after the many failures of Los Angeles, led me back to Fresno, and then I was just like, I'm just gonna work for a while, get my life like a little bit more stabilized.
Me inviting Trev into that band, he took that band. It was like one of a project where Trev had a reputation of dismantling bands. And here in Fresno, before our calling to, you know, rise above records.
You know, eventually it kind of led to me starting to play again, and that's when, you know, finally we could start getting into the early phases of Beastmaker, where it's like I was like, I'm gonna sing, I'm gonna play guitar, I'm not gonna play in other people's bands anymore. It's gonna be my band. I'm gonna write all the music and just show it to people. And that's really where it all began. I already had Andy drumming with me, and I just hit him up, was like, let's go.
So that was my first impression of playing drums with Trev playing, you know, an instrument, if that.
So my friend Anthony Trujillo, he was like this huge horror movie fan. He knew this dude Scott Carlson, and Scott Carlson plays in a band called Cathedral, and Cathedral had Lee Dorian in it, and that's who owns Rise Above Records. And as soon as I started doing Beastmaker, though, like it was like the doom metal version. So we got signed by Rise Above Records in 2014, and we hadn't even like barely played any gigs as that, doing Sabbath stuff.
He had been pushing doom metal pretty extensively around that time, joining a doom metal band on bass, for that matter. You know, with the kind of skills that he has, he was mostly chasing the genre. You know, like he wasn't trying to write songs and recruit dudes.
He was just like, I showed him what I was working on. I had written You Must Sin, and then I had the Vincent Price thing, and he's a horror fan, so of course he was just like, oh, Dr. Phibes, French horror movie poster, yada yada. He's like, this looks great, Trev, and he's like, I'm digging it. You Must Sin's tight. This is tight.
So when it came down to the type of riffs he was playing, I had already been hearing the kind of stuff he was trying to do with another band. And the drummer he had was really good. But I saw that doom metal doesn't call for good drumming. It doesn't, you're not supposed to be good. You're supposed to be bonehead. You're supposed to be like caveman, Conan, you know?
So it was kind of like the first time people really started to like kind of believe in me a lot more, my visions of music and things. It's like I knew what I was doing with the band. I had a focus in mind. I had a general idea of like what we were gonna execute, you know? Like I was like, we're just gonna play doom. We're gonna play Sabbathy, St. Vitus doom metal.
And this carnival of souls, no one dies, no one gets old. Come inside and have some fun. Wrap your lips around a gun. Time moves slowly, one and only. Why you're leaving, let's not breathe.
And try to get them nice and pretty and stretch your fingers as good as you can. And then a C. When you hit a C, try not to hit the E string. Yeah, that sounds pretty good. Back to F. When I was 15, I wanted to start being in a real band. So I started jamming with friends in high school. And I knew a couple drummers. And I just lugged my combo amp over to their house and just try and make noise and try to make it sound good. And my first band that gained some traction and we started writing songs was called The End. And we practiced in my parents' basement in Rochester Hills, Michigan, which is a suburb of Detroit.
I met Eric by answering an ad at Motor City Guitar. He was in one of his first bands, The End, and they were looking for a singer. And I actually answered the ad, went out and met up with Eric out in his house and practiced with his band and ended up ultimately joining him.
Well, I'd have to say the first time I remember Eric showing his dedication to music was back in high school when we first met. This guy had a musical knowledge that many people couldn't rival.
It was meeting him at that time, seeing the band and listening to him play that showed me this guy was incredibly passionate about what he does, incredibly talented guitarist, and a guy that was going to be a rocker for life.
And he was playing guitar and I was playing guitar at the same time, and his dedication to the craft was unparalleled for people in high school. I remember a time when we were playing at the Capitol Theater and Eric's dedication towards making things legitimate. He would go and make official badges, name badges, and band backstage passes for us and laminate them. And when the lights hit the stage, man, he was just full rock star, hair flowing, and it was just an incredible experience. Something that was very cool to be part of with him.
And that band lasted like maybe 3 or 4 years with different versions of it. And then the band after that was called Overloaded.
When somebody walks out of your show, what do you want them to think?
Fuck, they got their ass kicked. Yeah.
I'm gonna have a great time.
I'm gonna wake up the next morning with a hangover with the songs going through their head and they can't stop, but like we keep singing them over and over and over again and keep thinking about it.
And we started doing these kick-ass hard rock, heavy metal style, it had some classic rock, Deep Purple, and some heavy metal Metallica tinges to it, and then some glam rock stylings, and then some grunge stylings as well, some Soundgarden stylings. So that would encompass the sound and direction of that band. But people liked it, and we used to open for all of the 80s bands that were coming back into favor and touring again. They were getting back together. It was like 2004 and 2005.
Soon to be a ghost town, doomed to telephone. The days to do our own show, left without a mama, but welcome to Shotgun City. Shotgun City. Shotgun City. Oh, Shotgun City. Double barrel motherfucker.
So that band was really firing on all cylinders, but it got to a point pretty quickly and it hit a glass ceiling and it wouldn't tour. And there's only so far you can grow as a band because you've accomplished your hometown and the people that love you have come and see you, but you're not going to grow more and you need to hit the road, and that is your next step. And if you choose not to, that's your choice, but that's what we needed to do. So that band just kind of spun out, and that was too bad, and I found it really frustrating wasn't going anywhere. So the writing was on the wall, and I started to just look around the country online for more opportunities. And I got on Craigslist, and I hit the Craigslist in every major city in America that I could think of. And White Wizard had a Craigslist ad, and it had influences that at the time were not mainstream. It wasn't common for a band to be wanting to play or write music in the style of Judas Priest or Iron Maiden or traditional metal.
At the time, you know, the heavy metal scene and the hard rock scene was really kind of like dominated by more down-tuned stuff and darker stuff and way heavier stuff. And my attitude was to kind of like bring back the feeling of going to, you know, I always say going to the beach in a drop top listening to Fair Warning by Van Halen or the first time you air guitar to Power Slave. I wanted to kind of re-tap into that place.
I reached out to them and I asked if they were still looking for a guitar player, and they said they were. And they said, you know, rehearsals on Tuesdays and Thursdays, you know, which one of those works for you? And I was like, well, I'm in Detroit. So, you know, but how about I learn your song? Because I'm really serious about this. So how about I learn your song and I video it and send it to you? So I did that, emailed it to him, and got a response almost instantly like, hey, sounds great. I mean, let's do this.
We did an audition with him, and I really liked his playing, of course. And I felt like he kind of was the whole package. He looked the part, and he was a great player. And got his affairs in order, and then decided he was moving out to LA permanently. And we said, okay, if you're moving out, it's yours. And that was it.
But I thought about it, and yeah, sure enough, I said yeah. And then I sold everything that I owned, and I put my guitar rig in my pickup truck, and a set of clothes, and an overnight bag, and then I drove out to LA.
So we got the gentleman of White Wizard.
Yeah!
Hello. Introduce yourself.
John Leon, bass. Chad Bryan, rhythm guitar. Eric, guitar, fuck off. Wyatt, Screaming David Anderson.
Remind us that this is all supposed to be fun. Some metal bands take themselves too seriously.
Absolutely.
White Wizard reminds us it's fun.
Eric Records, the label we were on at the time, really gave a good push on that record. So it's the album that most people that we broke on and most people have heard. I mean, I don't think any record's been pushed as much, and we never had a great video after that for a record.
Earache put the album, they scheduled it for release, and we flew out and did some shows for them, some showcases on the East Coast. And the first big tour that I did with them was we opened for Corpaclani, Tear, and Swashbuckle. And that was a North American tour. And that was my first real tour, and I'd finally got to live that rather than just doing local shows.
That lineup was very good. I love Eric as a lead guitar player. He's got a rawness mixed with technicality that's a nice combo. Some guys are just super technical, but they don't have a lot of feel. Eric's got a lot of feel and rawness in his playing, and he's also got a lot of technical chops. And he does it in a way without a lot of effects, and it's very, you know, just fucking raw and in your face, which I love.
I mean, things were really flowing awesome, except the band wasn't getting along.
You know, we were having issues, nothing that probably a good manager couldn't solve, but that's one thing we didn't have at the time was a good manager, which I think was our Achilles heel.
And unfortunately, the lineup just fell apart. And that was the end of my tenure in White Wizard. Short and sweet.
Life kind of took hold after school a little bit, and I moved up to Hollywood for a bit and started jamming with some people up there, and then that worked for a little bit. Then I moved back to San Diego, and life kind of took over again, and I put it down, and then around 99, kind of started it up again. I got like a divorce, and so I was all like, I'm loose. I'm getting back into music. And so it started all over again. And I had a kind of a, what do you want to call it? Kind of a progressive band, metal band. It was called Plethora. You can still find them on Reverb Nation.
I met Kip when he was the bass player in a band called Ride the Sun. It was probably 2009, 2010, something like that. He had been in the band for a minute, and a friend of mine was actually one of the original guitar players for that band, and he quit, and I just kind of stepped in and took his place. So that's where I met him, and then we've been playing music together for quite some time since then.
I eventually met Lydell Arboleda online, and he's in Minnesota, and he was with Red Desert and some other bands, and he just was like, you know, hey, I'm thinking of coming out there, you know, maybe we can start a band. And so lo and behold, he did, and he moved in with me, and that was like the beginning of Ride the Sun.
Freaking setup. We started, this was the overall boom with the whole team. And then we got Brant Bjork Trio.
That was this year.
Yeah, this is this year's dealio. Space Lug, Freedom Hawk. Freedom Hawk kills, man. They're so good. And that's the old deal again too, right there. Oh, here's the other one. Planet Desert Rock. That's with us on it. That was a fun show. Good stuff. Good stuff. Manx. Well, yeah, I mean, I had from the 90s to the 2000s, there was just tons of bands just quick-lived and died. Different names. Once again, similar styles of music, but just people were so, and myself, were just not really focused on, you know, writing good music, staying disciplined, having a place to jam, you know. So from 90s to the 2000s, definitely a lot of music was had, and didn't really have the money to record it. But I mean, at that time, yeah, there was tons of jamming going on, but just not a lot of serious stick to it. We got a solid band. Everybody was partying way too much. Okay.
I did the Padre Hearts.
There you go.
I met Nacho in about 89 or 90. And we played the same band circuits here in San Diego. We were in different bands, but we played together a lot.
Well, the longest tenured band I had was this band called Magdalene. And that was, I don't know, I'd say early 2000s to about 2013. That was some similar style music, songwriting, you know, just bands not being able to stick together, be it just issues with life, work, family, whatever. Then, you know, I just went off the grid for a few minutes.
And we knew a lot of the same musicians, and we're all like mutual friends with everybody. So when I started jamming with him about 10 years ago, it was like really easy because we all had the same influences and we've all jammed with the same people. So
the rock scene, the heavy hard rock scene goes. There was, you know, like I said, Ride the Sun. There's also a band called Mojave Green that I even played drums for a little taste. And then met the bass player in that band was Dave Russell, great songwriter, cool cat. We started jamming out in there, and I asked him to come play in the band Magdalene for a little while. We played in there for a little while, and then as we were all three jamming, we started a band called Supersonic Dragon Wagon. But yeah, that was another minute right there where we had a pretty tough little lineup with Supersonic Dragon Wagon. Started here in this band room here, you know, basically back in 2011, something like that. But yeah, that was one of the early bands too that kind of came out of the Mojave Green time. Supersonic Dragon Wagon, Ride the Sun, turned into Mezzo.
I always thought Eddie was great, and again, for me, I wasn't taking anything personal, and I wasn't putting any personalities on anybody. I just wanted to rock, and I knew he was a great guitar player. And, you know, at that time, we were roommates, all that kind of stuff, you know. So when we were asked to leave, you know, I was like, dude, we don't have to stop just because they don't want us to play with them, you know. We still have plenty of things we can do together, and since we were living together, it just kind of was an easy transition, and there was no, you know, there was no bumps to have to go over. It was just changing lanes smoothly to one side, and away we went. We shook hands on the, hey man, let's just kick ass, and let's, you know, let's try to not have that happen, you know. If shit goes down, let's try and be honest and open, and let's just go and rock out. And then we go up to Rancho de la Luna and we start recording, and, you know, it was a quick transition, so it was smooth, and we just kept on rolling. One thing I never want to be is a deadbeat, you know, so I took my responsibility with bringing in a life to the world pretty serious. A lot of stuff was really happening within the Nebula camp. There was some injuries that happened that compounded into other moments and stuff, you know, and it all started just to kind of go downhill, and you know, the boat was getting full of water, and we were slowly sinking, and you know, the rock and roll cliche, yeah, we were a rock and roll cliche, you know, shit went down and stuff was done, and you know, still had great times, you know, I still, you know, have love for everybody, but just when the dark clouds started getting darker, but you do have someone who you're responsible for on this side, it's going to be best if I just walk away, you know, and you guys keep on doing what you do, man, but I'm out, man, you know.
So he started having some issues with Rise Above. Lee Dorian is not the most responsive guy to him. We started to realize that the manager was nothing more than a mediator so that Trev wouldn't have any direct line to him.
Rise Above, though, I don't have that kind of, like, my story with that is like I owe everything to Scott Carlson and Lee Dorian, because before that, I was just a Fresno guy. I think Beastmaker would have, like, because I had a couple other record label offers during that time. There was something was going to happen, because it was just more or less Rise Above is the label. Like, as soon as I heard they were interested, I just was like, done. There's no question about that. Like, no ifs and, you know, like, I love that record label. Like, that's one that I would be like, for sure.
So from that point on, we'd be tackled with now the troubles of business. This is the new enemy.
What I realized is how stifling it would be to be on a label as far as like output. Like, I wasn't even sure of what I wanted to do. You know, like Beastmaker just so happened to be the band that got me signed. So I thought like more of that would be cool, you know what I mean? But like realistically inside, I was like struggling and wanting to break away from that and do something completely different. Obviously, you listen to Beastmaker, you listen to Haunt, they're not really that close at all.
I always know, like, you know, what he's trying to do from the type of musician I became. Something that I could always see what he's trying to achieve.
Lo and behold, eventually I would want to not do doom metal, and for obvious reasons, it was not the first thing. You know, it was something that came after something else. And Rise Above, he gave me like, I now had like a footstone. It was like, here's Trevor. You know, and then everybody at that point was like, who's Trevor?
We would put out the first record and experience all the immediate hype of being on a prestige label like Rise Above. But we did notice, like, started hearing shit about other bands that the wheels would fall off due to business. And after the first record, we would have our second record on deck, and we just noticed that we can't afford to do a goddamn thing within a year. Plane tickets are fucking insane for 4 dudes. And then to go into a foreign country with that debt up against your back to go remake it is definitely the challenge that I don't ever wish on no man.
It eventually got to a point where it was like I needed to write lyrics that were meaningful to me, where at that point I'm just writing stories and just like things influence off horror films and things that kind of went with the doom metal world. And you eventually run out of ideas, and that's where I really, again, I hit a wall, and I was like, well, maybe I could change Beastmaker into like an epic doom metal band, or I'm gonna do something different. And that's when I wrote Luminous Eyes, and when I showed it to my drummer, he's like, this ain't Beastmaker. You know? And I was like, well, this is what I'm wanting, this is what is coming out of me right now.
Next thing you know, some deals are starting to roll in on this Luminous Eyes EP. From the moment that happened, I knew Trev's heart was completely out of doom metal. He didn't even fucking care. He wants to be closer to the genre, I believe, to where his dad, the era where his dad would be.
And he wasn't a fan of it at all. And he's like, nope. And that's when I decided, I was like, well, I'm gonna just record it on my own and start working on this other shit. And that's really how Haunt was born. And then, you know, I didn't do anything with it for quite a while, because obviously it was just an idea. It didn't have a home. I'd already been on Rise Above Records, 2 albums with Rise Above Records. I think we did 3 European tours, at least like 4 full USA tours. One was Zakk Wylde from Ozzy's band doing his Black Sabbath tribute.
So my reasons of not wanting to is because I thought we already did that. I was set on doom metal because we hadn't done it, and someone noticed it, you know? Someone noticed it. So I was like, that's what we do great. Look where they noticed it from. We're in a shithole in California, clear across the pond. I mean, that shit just grew legs and walked over there, damn near. All right?
At that point, you know, I didn't really have any aspirations of thinking I was gonna become some like rock guy or anything, you know, where that was gonna be what I was gonna do. I was like, I'm gonna keep doing my career, which was, I was a hairstylist for 18 years, so that was something that I've always kind of had. I had that job mainly because of the flexibility, you know, because like I did want to play music, and I was like, or just do anything, you know, when you're locked in with somebody, it's like a job, you can't just leave. You know, I had the type of job where like, oh, I'm going on tour later. You know, I would fit all my clients in the month before and just knock them out and then take a month off. I mean, it was great. Albert Meridian from Decibel magazine took a liking to Luminous Eyes.
From Fresno, so it's called Burst into Flame. If you like circle pitting, now's the time.
I had to put a band together, and that was interesting because I went through quite a few, you know, like musicians trying to find like who would be in Haunt. And my drummer from Beastmaker wouldn't come along. He's in it now.
Because he was already, you know, pushed out because he was dismantling way too many bands at the time. So like only some sort of kids would probably be responsive to it.
I really needed like a friend in the band, because I felt like the people that were in my band, like even though they were my friends, like I needed somebody that had been through stuff with me, and Andy was like that guy. Like I needed him back with me. And so, you know, he had traveled with me from Beastmaker. He was the guy that was like by my side through all of my ideas, you know what I mean? And
so at that time he calls me up. He's like, serious, John quit, Wolfie quit, Taylor quit. I got nobody. I was like, give me one song and don't call me for a month.
Now, I had seen Gypsy Hawk before. I was aware of this small metal scene that was happening and alive. So I was really excited about this band because I'd seen them play, and I liked what they were going for.
I remember being in San Francisco by myself on a personal trip, and Eric Harris texted me and said, dude, we just got a person who wants to audition for the band. We just got a video. And he sent it to me. I remember watching it on a bus, and was just like, and it was Eric Kluber. And I can't remember specifically what he was doing. He was probably doing like a Megadeth fucking riff and solo or something like that. And I was watching, I was like, this guy's got the chops. He looks the part, you know, big fucking Thor looking motherfucker.
So I showed up to Gypsy Hawk's rehearsal space at Pasadena, and I remember Ian looked at me and said, okay, I'm gonna start us off with a 4 count, 1, 2, 3, 4. And I was just like right in it instantly. And it's just like, okay, you know, like I knew the tunes, I was ready to go.
And finally, after like several other guitar players who didn't make the cut, we did Eric Kluber, and he fucking nailed it perfectly. I mean, it was like playing with him for maybe not like a long time, but at least like as if though we had played with him like for a month. We didn't give him any cues for like what the next change was going to be or anything like that. He didn't have any sheet music. He just fucking learned the songs really quickly, and we were really impressed.
Anyone who's into metal, like many of their favorite bands were released on Metal Blade Records. Everyone knows their history. They're huge.
I don't know if we had any sort of trepidation about the fact that Metal Blade was a metal label, but we sort of got the feeling that like, okay, so, you know, we were doing our thing. The Sword was more metal than us, arguably. But similar enough that like, okay, they're gaining steam. You had bands like Red Fang, Graveyard. Metal Blade wanted Gypsy Hawk to be their Red Fang.
So after the band released Revelry and Resilience, we got asked to go on tour with The Sword. And that was amazing. That was the best tour I've ever done.
Yeah, so after the Sword tour, we were fucking high on life at that time. Our booking agent, who was the Sword's booking agent, he took us on. He was telling us like, dude, you guys are gonna be, I've been telling like all the like official, you know, heads of South by Southwest that you guys are the next The Sword, you guys are the next Red Fang, like things are gonna happen for you. I like already like submitted you to go on tour with Alice in Chains, or you get paid a shit ton of money. We're like, what the fuck? Fuck yeah. That's fucking incredible. I don't know. Red Fang got to go on tour with Alice in Chains. Like people were excited for us. Fucking Metal Blade Records were excited for us, dude. We were getting 9s out of 10 reviews on our album in Decibel and Revolver, 10 out of 10s in some of them. Like they were all like 9 out of 10s, 10 out of 10s, 4 out of 5s, 5 out of 5s, and like every site, like everyone was about it. Metal Blade was so fucking stoked about us. Like we had the juice, man. We had everything, dude. We had label support, we had critical support, we had industry support. We didn't sell records. We weren't selling the records. It didn't actually seem like we were living up to the hype, I guess you could say, in like a business sense.
We came back and played the Metal Blade 30th anniversary show at the House of Blues with Sacred Reich and Armored Saint. So, I mean, Metallica was in attendance, but unfortunately the chemistry broke down within the band, and the lineup broke up. And lineups are so important. You know, there's two different philosophies, and one is that everyone's replaceable, and the other is that the lineup is you work through it, and the lineup is very important. It's worth fighting for, and I'm a believer of that. But unfortunately, while we were on the road, like, the van was breaking down, we were running into financial troubles, and like the infighting just got worse and worse and worse. So it all just went to shit. It all just dissolved. It was so unnecessary, and it was a nightmare that unfolded in real time that I was powerless to do anything about.
Yeah, but Eric Kluber wasn't going to stop because he's a lifer.
We kind of stick to a 90s, like, you know, to mid 2000s vibe, and you know, there's like elements of you know, Queens and Sabbath and stuff. It's pretty standard stoner rock, but we add a element of like 90s grunge to it and stuff. Not so many, you know, rock hard guitar leads or anything. They're just mostly like guitar melodies and stuff.
Well, for me, a lot of my songwriting inspiration comes from relationships, whether it be from females, co-workers, family members, daughter, you know, it all basically ties in.
Nacho does most of the songwriting, but he's also a really, really good drummer too. So that makes things easy in the songwriting process, because if there's something I don't understand with, you know, a part or something, he can just jump behind the kit and show me what to do. So
a lot of Mazoa's songs come from either just life experiences and trying to just either be therapeutic with it. Usually pick up the guitar when I'm just, you ain't got much going on, you're just feeling a little blue or something, you just pick up the guitar, and that's when you can kind of just get stuff out. And that's what the first album was. I think most of the songs were talking about a breakup or just life experiences, and that's where I just had a hodgepodge about 10, 15 songs, like I said, and then got those recorded just for fun. And then I realized, you know, got some gems in there, and after a couple people kind of agreed, and it's like, man, this could be a good thing. So like I said, we just got a couple friends together, rocked out for a while, and basically that's kind of where the Mazoa first album started from.
you know, there's a lot of breakup songs, there's a lot of songs of hardship and stuff that he's had, and it's very relatable, to anybody. You know, you can make those lyrics, apply to your life and stuff. And I think he's, in that sense, he's an open book.
When I played the album, it touched me. It really did. That debut album by Mazoa really grabbed me.
When he is like, he's very driven. And when especially when it comes to songwriting and lyrics and stuff, he's very, the lyrics have to, they have to be something that is personal to him. So when you listen to a lot of his songs, you can see his personality in those songs.
We were lucky enough to meet the guys in Stone Deaf through a good friend, John Gist, and they were starting a label called Coffin and Bolt. And through Coffin and Bolt, we were picked up by Golden Robot Records.
It really was a magically cool album. It wasn't your standard stuff. And, Nacho just really put it all together on one slab to really get them out there to the world. Very impressive.
ran into Ian Holloway, and I was talking about jamming sometime. So I was like, well, maybe we can do something. And then he had a band. He has a band called Shield of Snakes, and we had 13 Angels, and we did a gig together at the end of like 17. And then both singers from both bands moved out of town. So we were like, hey, why don't we try and, put the bands together and see what we can do. And so that was the beginning of Formula 400. It was one of those tunes, I think, that a band writes and you play it and you're just like, you're like, that's fucking awesome. And, not to, pat yourself on the back or something. It just happens sometimes.
It was surprising. We got a lot of praise pretty quickly from a lot of our musician friends and social media presence and things like that, especially coming from nowhere. Essentially, being that we were all in separate bands at some point, but together we'd never worked before, so it was surprising, definitely,
These burning bridges light my way. Light my way. Light my way.
It just has been the song that drives the band all over the place. People love that song, and I think it still gets most plays.
It was kind of a last minute thing. It was like Black Sabbath's Paranoid. Like they said that that song almost didn't make the album because it was just like a filler piece or whatever. This song was last minute in the studio. The drummer and I just kind of hashed it out. I kind of had some ideas and he just kind of went with them. So. It's kind of fortuitous it actually made it on the album.
Dan writes incredible music and has got great lyrics.
Lyrically, I didn't write the lyrics till after we had tracked it, and it was just about like an ex of mine, basically. Okay. In general, and being fucked over by friends and stuff in the past. So. Happy stuff.
Burn those bridges down. Burn those bridges
This is what you get. 12 inches of limp dick.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that seems to be kind of popular around here.
All I hear is lots of conversations about dicks.
About dicks.
Let's change that.
Yeah.
Right?
It can be trying at times, but everybody in this band gets along really, really well. We're four brothers. We really are. We like to dig on each other. We pick on each other. I mean, if I show you text messages, it definitely won't air.
It's one of those things where I think that when you play with, lucky enough to play with good people, they make you play better. And, you know, that's the way I feel about, you know, being in Formula and playing, is it's because it just, the creative juices don't stop. It just keeps going.
I guess, you know, having some musicians that I totally respect to play music with, that we all kind of learn from each other, and like everybody contributes something.
We have Alex in the band now. He brings a whole different element into the band, and it's really different. It's new blood, it's fresh, it's going to change a little bit, but it still will be, you know, people still know it's Formula.
I don't think anybody would be upset about quitting their day job to make a living playing in this band. But, you know, we're also very realistic that's, you know, that's a pipe dream. That's one of the things I love the most about it. The band's not afraid to go on tour. We're not afraid to pick up and go across the country. I think I would rather go on vacation with my wife than with these 4 clowns. Or 3 clowns, sorry. I'm one of the clowns, that's 4, right?
I've known Ruben a long time, so in the early 90s, our bands would play together. So I had a band, Backbiter, and we'd play with Fu Manchu. And pretty early on, we kind of had a mutual respect. And back then, probably playing at Al's Bar, Ruben said, hey, we're going to be in a band together someday. And it actually happened, so.
We spoke earlier where I cringe when I hear things I've done 10 years ago, you know. So the only thing that saves me with that particular first Freaks release is that was the intention, was to be weird, and if it came out crappy, it came out crappy. It came out great, it came out great. You know, I didn't care how it was going to come out. I just want to try this idea and just throw it in, and let's see what happens when it gets popped out, you know. That was how it all kind of started, you know, and it wasn't even supposed to be a band. It was supposed to be just that project.
When Ruben left Nebula, he put together like the first Freaks album, but it's basically like his solo records, you know, where he had all his different friends help him, like John McBain, Scott Reeder, Bernie Worrell played on it.
I would have continued to sing if it was needed, sure, you know. Jonathan has a great voice as well, but I wanted something new to bring to the band, you know, and it was just a couple of chance meetings and running into a complete character that, you know, you can't deny noticing, and that's Jason. So, you know, it was a long shot, but I was like, I got a feeling, an intuition, you know, that this guy might work.
Hi, I'm Jason. Jason, I'm high. Top of the tips, top of my nips. Top of the tips, top of my nips. La 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 ho. Ah! First of all, I didn't like the Freaks initially. Just kidding.
So, when Jason first walks into the rehearsal place, you know, I could tell that some of the guys were ready to start hazing. You know, I'd mentioned, hey man, he's a bit of a pill to swallow, but once, you know, once it dissolves, and it's going to be a good thing. You'll see, man, you know.
I did a thing called Sunday, Holy J's Sunday for Sinners, where we love God, but we don't talk about God. We just play heavy metal. So that was the premise. And so I knew I could get Ruben to come down. I didn't know, but I hoped I could get Ruben to come down and do an interview. And he came down, hung out, talked to us. We took him to the Elks Lodge and got him drunk. And the rest is history. He called me a couple years later on the phone and said, "Hey man, do you want to sing for my band?" And I think the story he tells is I said, "That's what I do, man." And that's not what I do, so.
It was a total breath of fresh air, and I got lucky. I saw something in Jason that was like, let's give it a shot, because he does shine, man.
People have always told me, actually sitting at this table, I sing so loud and so strong, I either offend people or they say I'm the greatest ever. But that's happened to me my whole life. You know, I'm a dancer, I'm a showman, I got jazz hands.
Here is like a collection of my dad's backstage passes from shows he's played. So I do remember some of the VOA stuff, because I had to go on some of the shows.
Okay.
So I remember like hanging out with the sound guys a lot. And, the apple didn't fall far from the tree on my side of things with my dad. Obviously, I became a musician following my dad's passion for music.
His dad, dedicated his whole life to trying to find out the truths in the most, mysterious art form and hand it down. I find myself doing the same shit, trying to hand it down to kids before they have to find it out themselves.
So my dad, Bill the Electric Church, is a profound pot-smoking, bass shredding legend within his own right. He definitely put a footprint down the second he stepped into a room with Van Morrison on Tupelo Honey and they did the song Wild Nights. That bass line, ding, is legendary within itself. Somebody has heard it somewhere.
So in the times of when we'd go party and shit, like him and his cousin would throw on Montrose and Rock Candy and heavy metal, and I'm like, who the fuck is this? It's Trev's dad. He's big shit. It's Bill Church. I'm like, who? I'm fucking listening to new metal, bro. Like, I don't fucking know who Montrose is at all.
And for him to go and he have a career with somebody like Sammy Hagar, which is a household name. There's people that know who Sammy Hagar is that they've never even heard a Sammy Hagar song.
After a while, when we would engage with metal, I would start understanding that Sammy Hagar was a pivotal role in, Bill's life. And that, the day came where Sammy Hagar would go sing for Van Halen. So, Trev would always tell me that, that's what took my dad out. My dad would take me to shows and be like crying and shit, watching, bands because of his immediate unsuccess. My dad calls it from the penthouse to the outhouse. And as a dude, that's a hard one to swallow, So, like, I always had that understanding that must have sucked for Bill, man. And it must have sucked for Trav to watch.
For me, it's like me up against all the Van Halen kids. Like, who's fucking reigns supreme? And it's like, that's my personal competition in life, is like, outdo those that tried to outdo my dad. Like, who's better? You know, they left him behind, you know, in the dust. But are they going to be able to beat Trevor? And Wolfie definitely has beat me at paying people to get on tours. But I will definitely say that when it comes down to originality, he can't touch me. He's not original. His music's not original at all. Status Quo, Blue Oyster Cult. So,
Nation, wow.
Yeah. They were short-lived, and my dad's like, it's funny, he goes, we really roughed it in Montrose, and I'm looking at the tour itineraries, and like, fly into like there, I'm like, I'm kind of glad that I didn't grow up around all that, like, super closely, because like, otherwise the word nepotism could be probably put into things, and like, with me, it just can't. I had to do all the hard shit. Like, I still am. There's dues to pay that I've paid, and there's dues I'm still paying. I'm not even on their level. You know, I'm not even in their playing field, dude. I'm in the outfield behind the fence.
Trevor Church makes me realize that you gotta apply yourself pretty hard. And then all the fools that disappeared. It's all evidence that you gotta put it in on an obsessive note, not on a celebrity note.
That really, you know, like I don't have like too many terribly fond memories of anything in that world, because my dad was just constantly like at the kind of the shit end of the stick, to put it nicely, of it all. And that's why when I started doing music, I was like, I'm the boss. I'm doing the lyrics, I'm singing, I'm doing all of it. This is my ride, like, because it's just, you know, and I have to be the Sammy Hagar now. I don't obviously never would do all that, but you know, like, now I understand the complexities of, like, he has a lot of things to take care of.
But he's definitely responsible for who Trev is. Just like, my dad is. You know, I'm just imitating my dad. So is he. You know, they're the real heroes. Our fathers. Because a lot of fools ain't got them. Oh. Yeah, Bill, man. The Electric.
I was in Void Vader. That band started picking up more and more steam. And I remember we did a show at the Rainbow, of all places. They still do shows upstairs, you know. And Ulrich Wilde had come out, and he had been interested in producing a Gypsy Hawk album. And so we had stayed in touch, and he had checked out a Void Vader show, and he's like, you know what? I've got this label I'm putting together, and I'm an engineer, and I'm gonna record the bands on my label, and would you want to be a part of it? And we said, yeah.
Yeah, you know what? Void Vader was such an interesting band, and how it came about, at least with me having activity with them. He sent me a video, and I'm like, damn, that's some really cool 2-guitar action metal, but also heavy rock, you know, with good vocals. And I just dug it right from the beginning. They played it was either my second or my third Vegas Rock Revolution show ever.
I put all my energy and into Void Vader, and we started touring, and then the band started writing more, and we put out another record, you know, this time with Bill Matoyer.
You know, after the first time of having them, I saw the crowd reaction. I saw people immediately into them. Matter of fact, there was even a guy or two there that did other shows themselves, promoters and bookers that immediately latched onto them to want to do shows.
The word got out, and a representative from Ripple came out to our show in New York. So we signed with Ripple Music, and we got to work writing the new record and continued to tour.
And I was just impressed also, not only with their live playing, but they had good recorded stuff. And they were able to play that live close to what it sounded like on the albums.
Void Vader never had a manager, which was it took a lot of energy that ended up being me, quite honestly. And I think I did a good job getting the word out, and like kind of took me over. And it really took away from like time that I could have been like just practicing the instrument and just focusing on music. And so I did that, and I was a guitar player and a performer. And then like on the road, I ended up being the tour manager, getting the hotels and just like doing the day-to-day logistics, which also takes your fucking energy away.
Eric was the driver and the glue behind that band, without a doubt. I mean, he was a well-respected, connected guy within the scene enough, and knew, what needed to be done and so on.
We finally had come back, and we made a commitment to ourselves to stop touring because it takes away. It's like you come back, and where are you going to focus all your energy in? And so we decided to write the record, and we put all our energy, and we wrote Great Fear Rising. I'd say within, like, it was pretty quick once we put our mind to it. We have eyes on us now, and I'm like, that's good. That's the whole point of these tours. That's what we're always working towards. But what I didn't realize is they felt that they had eyes on them, and us didn't include me, and that I was holding the band back. And I was like shocked. I mean, I really didn't see this coming. And the band, from how I saw it, we were still kicking ass, and we were still relevant, and we were about to write a new record, and we were still moving forward on our path.
It's sad to see the internal combustion of the band. It catches up to good bands, I guess, quite a bit.
They said that they did not want me in the band, and that they felt that I was holding the band back, and that they'd be doing better without me. And I was the reason why it's a good band. Why isn't it going anywhere? It's your fault. It's you. You're the reason why we're not going anywhere. So that's a hard pill to swallow. And it was just fucking brutal, man. I thought that this band was going to be like the last band I ever was in. I thought I had more value, and I thought I brought a lot to the table. I thought we were a great machine. I mean, I thought it was a really functional, good system that was operating,
The heart of the band was Eric, without a doubt. And once that was not part of the equation, well, Void Vader is no longer a band. Everyone's moved on to different things. So
I just got fucked up for like 2 weeks, just drowned my sorrows, I just did work and then just drank.
As far as Stucco Solutions, started that in 2013, and it was just basically, it was tough working for the man and making chump change. And, I just, in the construction industry, sometimes you just don't know where your next meal coming from. That sounds a little dramatic, but truthfully, if you don't know where these jobs are, you don't know what your boss got, it's kind of stressful. So I just decided, well, I'm going to bank and bet on me. I'm going to try my own business, see if I can get this working. seen a couple of my buddies do it and be successful, so I just gave it a shot, and it's worked out. I'm blessed. Can't complain. Life is good. The universe has looked out for me 100-fold, and I'm just thankful human being.
Friday. Getting it in. Lunche. What's up, Raul? What's up, Louis? What's up, Miguel? Órale pues. Búmbale.
As far as balance goes, I've been lucky enough to be successful with the jobs we've got on the books and the contractors that I'm working with, who have made it, you know, easier to be able to take time off for tours or to have a little dough to spend on recording and whatnot. But yeah, I mean, the trade-off, it's finally paid off. It was a struggle in the beginning with the business, but now it's basically paying off for all my dreams. I'm not gonna say all my dreams that came true, but I mean, God, man, I got like 13 dreams left, and I've already knocked down 472. So you tell me. No, just no. It's like, I don't know. Do we get editorial?
No, I feel retarded. We don't use that word. What up, Petey?
As far as getting people to commit to bands at this state of life, it's kind of tougher. It's a commitment. We all got jobs, coming home from after work, burnt, feet hurt. You got obligations with the wife or the kids or the family or the dogs. You know, it's tough, and I really do appreciate my brothers who do come over and jam out and give their most precious commodity, which is their time. And when they come over and hang out and we put that blood, sweat, and tears into the music, it's really rewarding. But I also want to let them know and how thankful and grateful I am that they give of their time, because I mean, it's tough these days, man. Time is precious, and it's tough to keep a squad together these days, for sure.
Well, if I can be perfectly honest, we're at kind of a crossroads with new members, because our bass player, we had 2 bass players that left within like 3 months. So the bass player that we have right now, I believe he's just temporary, and we're trying to convince him to stay. And
yeah, it's just basically writing new stuff, get in the studio, record some new tunes, and just album number 3. I think the working title is Swamp-Footed Mudcat.
Swamp ass?
Swamp-Footed Mudcat.
For me, I'm going along for the ride because this is Nacho's baby. Not saying that I don't contribute or anything, but this is his baby, and he's the one that has been working on this project for the last 6-7 years. I'm happy to be a part of it. Wherever it goes, I'm cool with it. We did a couple tours in 22 and 23, which was cool. I'd be down to tour again, definitely. I mean, we make 0 money doing it, but again, it's for the love of music.
I'll leave that one in
there. Swamp-Footed Mudcat. Oh, fucking.
I believe that if anything is to come of this band, that would be awesome. But, it would be icing on the cake. But if nothing comes of it, we're still going to do it anyway.
We're doing this Christmas show, so we had to come up with some covers. And Jason's really into Jim Morrison, so so this is all captured at the rehearsal place.
Oh, this is okay.
Yeah.
Nice.
You know, with the way the band is now, like we share in a rehearsal lockout space. We have one day a week that's slotted for us, and you know, again, we have very flexible roommates, so we can always, you know, communicate and swap days, all that kind of stuff, you know.
That's the thing, you know, we can't, you know, when I had bands before, we'd practice 3 or 4 days a week or, you know, that kind of thing. We practice once a week, maybe. You know, getting everyone in the same place can be a bit of a challenge because everyone has a life, kids or a wife or a career or whatever.
We've been lucky to where we still have a lot of great friends who have a lot of space in their places of living that they offer us to stay, so we save $200 on hotel that night, you know. I mean, still sleeping on people's floor, that's still a reality, you know, and it saves the end of the day, but yeah, you might, you know, be a little stiff, you know.
You know, and tour in a way that fit the lifestyle. You know, it's expensive to live these days. You can't, and if you have a family, you know, you got to be responsible. So, you know, it was okay for us to do 5-day tours or 10-day tours or save up our vacation days and go to Europe for a month. I think a lot of bands are doing that these days, or, you know, a lot of people our age are retired now too, and a lot of those guys starting to tour more. So
describe a typical rehearsal session, if you don't mind.
Hey, Jonathan. Hold on a second. That's the typical rehearsal session, is us always telling Jonathan to shut up. No, really, it's not like that at all.
In ways, it's more fun now, I think, because we don't do any of the stupid shit you did back then, you know.
It's always hard, you know, but it has to happen, you know. It's got to happen, you know, or else I'll go crazy. I'll go crazy one way or another, you know. I might as well, you know, not go crazy if I could play music.
That's another revelation, you know, because we do go out and do these very specific kind of tours, like up and down the coast or like the Southwest, and we will do like short runs of CDs, and people still buy CDs, believe it or not, they do. And we'll sell hundreds of CDs just at shows. And so, you know, in those terms, you know, our goals are pretty modest, but we seem to hit them, and it kind of keeps us going. So,
you know, it is nice that you can push a song or push a video clip or push something and then immediately see some feedback from it, when before, you know, you have waiting for a report from your label, like they're waiting for SoundScan, you know, and you're sitting there in limbo not knowing what the hell's going on, you know.
There's definitely still more of a traditional label thing going on back then, and now it's more like you do your own thing and you deliver it to the label, and then you don't really get paid. They give you product and you sell it at shows. It's a lot different.
You could book a show where, oh man, I remember when I played back there with Nebula, and we packed that place all the time, you know, and then you show up with this new band and you're like, where did everybody go?
And we also do it to connect with people. So the business part is kind of always looking at those three things, you know, like what are people going to like? You know, part of an artistic venture business-wise is the aesthetic.
I'm lucky because I do have a little bit of a tap into the Fu Manchu lore, into the Nebula lore, right? So I could use vans and skateboards You know, I can use space and, you know, psychedelia. You know, I can use weirdos and freaks. You know, I can use anything really, and it still kind of, you know, encompasses the general picture of you know, of the music.
I think that's the biggest difference. There were actual record labels, and the even the smallest bands got signed a lot of times. Now, the biggest bands on our scene just put out their own records, or they go through Heavy Psych Sounds or a label like that, and the expectations are much more modest than then. You know, like, you know, if you sell 500 or 1,000 vinyl records, that's pretty good. If, you know, if you sell a couple thousand CDs, that's great, and then forget about digital. You don't get paid anything for that. So
nowadays, because of the digital part, it's kind of okay, because you can now get direct deposit, and then you can see the 12 cents. You know?
Crimson Ghost is in there.
And Mama put him in there.
Tiny Terror, Misfits guy too.
She put all of them in there.
Like my son sees the same thing as probably I saw in my dad. Is just how powerful music is. To me, music is one of the most powerful languages on earth, and if you're able to do it, you're fucking lucky. If you're even able to attempt to do it, you're lucky. And, you know, it's impossible for him not to see that passion. And I think he's already taken to it. Like, since it's never been, I don't feel like it's like major work. I've always been able to figure out how to balance it. I'm sure there's people, like, again, it's like not everybody is geared for that kind of thing, because like the things that I don't really have is like I don't really have like a social life outside of like music and family. Like I don't go out, like I don't go out with friends, because for me there's no time for that. And that time spent in the studio, and usually I can get like Andy or somebody over here if I'm like needing somebody to hang out, or I talk to the band a lot on the phone and stuff like that. But
to me, the only way to balance it is, I mean, you definitely got to be on your time management game and really ask yourself, you know, are you about this, or are you just trying it on like a tank top, you know?
That kind of stuff, if you need that in your life, you can kiss that goodbye, because there's no way to do it and actually go do those things, because you need every second to record music. You need all the other time to ship all the stuff and keep the, you know, the business running. You have to actually have a store. You know, you can't just be like, oh, here I am. I'm a band. I now have a T-shirt. No, like you got to have, you know, you got to build it up to where it's like if you walked in, like there's like a choice. There's choices of things.
Like I said, we don't party. So we're really not in it for the sex, drugs, rock and roll aspect. It's a pure, passionate move for the craft only. And trying to find truth in, you know, how it's done to be successful.
Well, you gotta love what you're doing. And it sounds cheesy as all ever, but you have to love it. And like, I love music so much that like, if me having to like go into my office and ship records out is like what I have to do to keep doing this, no problem. So yeah, on my spare time, I'm like a toy collecting nerd, so it's like kind of awesome to have such a little cool rocker to share my toy obsession with.
I mean, my 8-hour day consists of work and then I play, unless I'm with my kids. So I'm pretty much isolated.
I can never go to I can't go to stifling contracts, like, you know, just purely out of creative area. But now more, I'm like, now I see like you could actually like make a living doing your own thing. That's like forever changed on how I look at a record label.
He was a hairdresser. He'd never worked for anybody. You guys gotta realize, before the music thing hit, he was a terrible work ethic. He was more like the sluggish brat, like didn't only worked like 4 hours a day. He couldn't work an 8-hour day, like in corporate jobs like the rest of us.
So yeah, like I never really have found like creation when you have like a studio like to just always go to. It's like right in the back of my house, like that's all the creativity I need. Is like I just come in here and this is my place of creation, so I don't feel like it's like work or hard to juggle. The hard thing to juggle with time is just like, for me, is just finding a balance of how much time I'm spending with my family versus how much time I'm spending working, because like I don't want to be like I saw a commercial the other day. It said the only person that will remember that you worked late is your kids. Yep. And I was just like, damn. I was like, that's for real. Like, that's for real. That was me. My mom was like that. So like, she ran her own business and she was, you know, I raised myself essentially, you know. She was always, but she also, that was good for me to see, because it showed me how like that you can be independent, you could do your own thing. My mom is definitely that person that gives me that, like, that's probably where that fire comes from, of just being like, being your own boss, you know, like doing your own thing. I don't think it could work for everybody, you know, because like if what I am doing was tried and true, a lot more people would probably like go for it. But like there's a lot of guys out there that can do it like that, you know, like independently, alone. But you have to really build it there. Like I built it on Bandcamp. Having everything in print, like I said, is a real nightmare. Sure. It's not possible without hundreds of thousands of dollars, which I don't have. Yeah, so I have to I play the game accordingly to what I need. But there is a lot of things that could come your way. Like I've had to deal with IRS stuff, which is just horrifying. Like, and I learned a lot from it, is that the IRS is like the biggest bunch of crooks in the world, because they tried to get me for like, they wanted me to pay $17,000 in 2018, and I didn't want to do that, so I took them to tax court and I paid nothing.
I thought I was just done, you know. I thought I was just over. I mean, I'm a lot older at this point. The idea of like starting from scratch, or like going and auditioning for these bands that I don't really have anything to do with. Like I had put so much work into Void Vader, like, and getting it into a touring band and kind of like a well-oiled machine and stuff. And they were just going to cut me loose, and things are looking pretty dark, but out of nowhere.
This looks like something totally like that, like my bedroom. But even if it is, that's fine, dude. It's, you know.
So yeah, with Society 1, I will say that, you know, I've never been in a band that wears makeup before. And I was like really worried about my street cred. And like I called a couple of my buddies and I said, I'm thinking about joining this band, but they wear guy liner and like it's mandatory and it's been right up front, and then like, should I do this or not? And my buddy said, if you don't do this, you're the biggest fucking idiot I've ever met. So I was like, they helped me get over that hump, you know what I mean? And they were going out with Static X and Fear Factory and Dope and Mushroom Head. I mean, it's this huge stacked bill. And that was the biggest tour I've ever done in my life. So here I am going from Void Vader, just like kicking me out. They said I'm no good anymore. And then Society 1 wanting me in, and then doing my job, and then we're killing it every night. And so it was like a great bit of redemption to show that I can still do this. I'll get down here. Yeah, good eats and great homegrown vegetables from farm to mouth. Right here in Hollywood. So after the big tour, I come back home, and what's interesting is you're going from playing these cool theaters every single night and back to normal civilian life, which I've been through 1,000 times. But it's a little bit different because the Society 1 band functions differently, They get together when there's something to work on. And so now I'm just like, I'm just kind of in limbo a little bit, kind of waiting to see what is the future of Society 1. I don't know. It's a different chapter to concentrate on, just me as a musician and figuring out what you're going to do next.
I knew that he was like kind of the guitar player I always wanted to play with in a band.
Eric's presence on stage is phenomenal. It was immediate. You knew he was a pro up there.
I just enjoyed and felt so comfortable. I enjoyed so much playing with him and felt so comfortable on stage. In a way, Eric was more like playing with a big brother.
I've always felt that being a musician is more than just the music and more than just the rehearsal. That's a huge part of it, but also your day-to-day. Everybody has to get through a day-to-day. And how do you exist and how do you get by? And where are you going with your life? And are you cool with where you're at, or are you trying to, are you trying to make more money? Are you trying to improve your family life? Are you trying to go to school? Do you have career aspirations outside of just music? I mean, everybody has a lot of things to juggle around. So when Society 1 got back, it was a great time because I felt secure in music again. I felt like, dude, I have a lot to offer, and it took me out of this dark place where everything is just terrible, and I felt okay to look at life again and look at music in itself, to just practice my instrument, to work on me as a guitar player. Yeah, dude, sit down, learn some new skills, man. Work on your picking, work on your pick angle, work on your legato, Let's push the tempos, let's find some new techniques, let's find out where you're slipping up and why. And that's been a cool challenge that I've been pursuing and going full throttle on, rather than investing all my energy in a band.
Well, I think any band, there has to be a leader, and Ruben's clearly the leader.
He's always been very humble and cool. He doesn't put on pretensions, because you know how some people in bands and that's been the demise of a lot of talented musicians, is they think they're better than they are, and now that they got a record deal, and then they fuck it all up. So he's not that guy. He's hardworking. He's able to organize a band, organize tour. He's like a multifaceted musician that has his head on his shoulders, and that's what it takes to survive. When I worked with famous musicians, those guys were serious as fuck, and they were not fucking around, and they were working their asses off, and I was they're not that image of yeah, party.
How challenging is it to balance all of it?
It's an extreme challenge, dude. But the one part that makes it easy in a way, and I don't want to say easy, sparingly, is that how far out you have to plan something to make it happen. Trying to plan a small little tour, you know, you're probably looking maybe 3 to 4 months in advance. So you have that big time frame there to be able to then reschedule all the other things that you need to do so that you can still kind of take care of everything, you know. So it's weird because I heard that there's a band that's out there right now and they're getting pretty huge, and they're advertising tickets. It's over a year away.
Another part of being our age is he's seen everything. He's seen every mistake. He's seen every nasty thing someone's ever done. So
you have to look at, you know, birthdays, you know, anniversaries, other, you know, holidays and special moments, you know. So all those things come into play, and it's a big puzzle that you got to figure out, you know.
You know, Ruben is a complex guy, I think, like any musician. And so there's the sense of humor, which is great. Family guy, and so, you know, he's very responsible. They raised the best daughter, but he's like, you know, he's half Argentinian, half Colombian. So I've seen some situations where he stood up for himself, and he did it in a very strong way, and you could tell people are like, this guy's not fucking around.
It was kind of long, like I was sort of sitting there, I can't drop out for too long, like.
No, that's not where you drop out after that. That's where you got to drop out. After
Well, no, because that's where my guitar solo ends. I do the guitar solo the same exact way every time. So, do I try it again?
Yeah.
Yeah, why don't we just do it? Because if we can hit this.
You've, by this point, weeded out bad attitudes. You know, you don't put up with any of that kind of stuff. You know, this version of the Freaks is probably my favorite. I love all those other guys too, but I mean, we get along so good, and just have a lot of fun, laugh a lot.
You know, I'm living my best dream, and I'm with guys that mentored me and teach me still today, and I don't think they get mad at me as much anymore, except maybe for all the drug usage. Just kidding.
Let's try it from the chorus into the guitar solo.
Hold on.
We don't have to do the whole song.
Do I have to stand up?
So
I can sing it.
You sing it.
Hi, I'm Jason. Blah blah blah.
You be me.
Look at me. Blah blah blah. Bubbles.
Let's see if you guys can get this
Take
right.
the mushrooms. Blah blah blah.
You guys can get this right.
I'm so thankful that I had supportive parents who realized that I was actually had some rhythm when I was tapping along to the music in the kitchen, you know. And, you know, I'm thankful to all the people that I've been able to play with, because I'm sure I can speak for them when I say how that feeling is.
That experience where you're playing and you're here and elsewhere at the same time, that something else takes over. I mean, I think it's wanting to keep tapping into that. And I think if you're a creative person, you got to keep creating. It doesn't stop.
I'm lucky, you know, if you were to sit there and put a legacy down on paper as a resume, Fu Manchu, Nebula, the Freaks, man, you know, there's a lot of people out there who can say they were in this one band that had success. I'm kind of got 3 bands that I can say did something and actually mean something to some people, and the portion of it that I was involved is the portion that brought it to be able to blossom further on, you know. I guess the name of the event is Morongo Valley Music Festival, because we're in Morongo Valley, which is a small community just before Joshua Tree as you climb up into the high desert. It's kind of crazy how it's blown up, you know, and it's become subgenres of itself now, you know, so pretty stoked, I guess, you know. I guess we impacted something, you know, and made something happen. But that was never the intention. The intention was always just to have a good time and play music, and you know, what else can you say? But that's pretty wild that you know, some of the peers that I have are still completely out there doing it at a way higher level, you know. So I'm proud. I guess I could say I'm proud of it.
Let's hear it for the Freaks!
It's kind of funny because Fu Manchu was more of a coastal band, and then we ended up tapping in with the desert because of the Fu Manchu Caius type of music that we were doing. So we kind of blended the coast with the desert, and we were accepted really well into the desert. The desert was happening way more than the beach was, you know, so we got lucky that we were able to integrate into their scene, you know, and because of that, it's kind of like, it kind of made you know, a bigger world, a smaller world, I guess.
The city of the dead. The living dead. A cursed city, where the gates of hell have been opened.
I mean, Fresno's a big city and it's a thriving city. It just has a weird history and like a weird placement geographically. We're like the armpit of California.
The Fresno music scene, goddamn, it's like a corporate. It does generate hype to its local bands. I mean, there's been a list of local bands over the years since I've been involved in the Fresno scene that have caught scratch and hype. But it's almost like a curse at the same time, because Fresno doesn't even know what's good for Fresno. So when they do find hype on a local band, it's almost like that this is the only place they're gonna find hype.
I think as a musician though, Fresno's like really good geographically. Is I'm like 3 hours to San Francisco, 3 hours to LA, 3 hours to Sacramento. So it's like, where else do I need to go play?
Serious, man, it's hard up in this motherfucker, because I deal with the public locally as far as working at Guitar Center. So like I hear all their frustrations and how you get out, you know, how you get out of here with the likes of, you know, Spotify's, and you can reach anybody, you can send anybody a link, but you're still from here.
Fresno had its moment of where things were really like cool. So there's always been a lot of musicians from here, and there's always been venues supporting musicians here. It's just like, since LA's there and San Francisco's there, and that's kind of like the place where everybody, like either people leave, you know, to go do it elsewhere, or, you know, they just get sucked into Fresno and end up not being musical in the end.
But it has had some champs here. We've had some, but every single great band that, you know, caught wave here was just probably about 2 years behind of its shit hitting worldwide. So it's like late. So we always looked at that as like, well, don't do what's hype here, because it's just a bootleg version of what's going on globally.
I think when I looked at what I was making as a musician, and I'm going, okay, what can I afford? Here's a $2 million house. Here's a $250,000 house. Like, $250,000 obviously seems like a way smaller hill to climb than 2 million. You're like, 2 million, you're like looking up, you're like, where does it end? $250,000, you're like, yeah, that's pretty high up there, but the bank says I could do it by the time I'm 67 years old, so they must be right.
Fresno has made a perfect place for us to have those resources. Me and him, he's got his own spot with his own shit, all the gear. I got a job that teaches me about the gear. We're in the field. Those are the tools of the trade, and this is what we do. So it's the man shop. It's fucking Lowe's. It's fucking, you know, golf. It's everything.
I could tell you what the drawbacks are for sure. Is like when you're not a part of a place where there's like a musical culture, like usually like press and things aren't as involved in your stuff as the places where there are like Portland, you know, places with big musical, you know, Seattle with like the big music backing of LA, all that stuff.
But it never influenced like what we were gonna make. We thought we knew what the outside world liked more so than what Fresno liked. We weren't going to submit to what Fresno liked. You know, we were going to think that we were cooler outside of Fresno. And it's so weird because we still to this day, I mean, we play everywhere. Still here, it's like taking like, what? Regardless of our accolades and achievements, Fresno still likes what Fresno likes. So we look at it as a Doomville, like not in the genre, like your wasteland. Like it's where local bands go to die.
It being a career it's great because I thoroughly enjoy it, and I don't care if like there's gonna be a bump in the road. I don't care if I go, you know, broke doing it, whatever. At least I attempted to do something rather than not doing anything at all. You know, I get to have my fun. I get to go out and tour and stuff and adventure. So I don't ever, like, again, like you have to respect it. It's like it's not you have to go do that. It's like you get to go do that. You know what I mean? You get to go tour still. So enjoy it while you fucking can, guy, because it could be gone like that.
Because I don't get into music to play that. I play music because I love to play with my fellow brother.
One thing is also just to be brave, man. Like just go out there with some bravery and just believe in yourself. Be like, dude, I'm doing this. Like, because if you're not confident, you don't have the courage just to be like, I'm doing it, no matter what. Like if it fails, oh well, I tried.
Yeah. The thing that I've told you earlier that keeps me with him is the way I receive him. Because remember, I got my own journey. You know, I'm still like a spiritual. I'm like the opposite. I'm thankful. I'm more thankful to even get the chance to play. You know, to even come here and have my own, you know, stuff. You know. Whereas he's on a quest, man. He's quest driven. His dad got cut. It's like Luke Skywalker. So like his quests are different in a way that might sometimes make me disagree on the move that we're going to make at the actual time.
You know, we're living in a time where it's like you really can put your you know, your merchandise in your fans' hands like directly and have a relationship with them, you know, like even if it's just as you're the salesman of your shit or whatever. Sure, yeah. It's better than nothing, you know. You're like, oh shit, this guy, you know, like it's gotten me to know my fans like really well. Another big thing is don't be a dick. That's a good, easy rule to live by, so that your don't never be a dick to your fans, like even a drunk one, you know, like just always be cool. Just be respectful. Those are your people. They're connecting to you on some level, even if they don't look like you. You know, like those are your the people that support your art.
I can't understand how, you know, people can, especially in music, they can clout chase, claw, get ahead on some cheat move, and still think that they won of some sort.
One thing I always try to like live by is just always when I get up is just to be appreciative of what I have and not what I don't have. You know, like I think about what I have, and that helps me get through any of that other stuff of what the not haves.
When we're going on the road, we like to think if something bad happens to us out there, we had it coming. We fucked off somewhere, you know? So me and him definitely have to roll on good morale spirits to know that everything that happens to us out there, it was deserved.
Keeping a good outlook is like kind of the key to any successes, even if it's moderate. You know, like I wouldn't say I'm like highly successful by any means, but I'm doing what I want to be doing, which in my eyes is what success is just doing the things that you think you are meant to be doing, as opposed to doing something you're not meant to be doing.
So again, the business light is really starting to shine because that's his defense against it. And he's still swimming to this day. So like, you gotta applaud that. I have. Shit, he's my daddy.
Song's called Beautiful Distraction and Good Night. Well, thank you to Joel here. He's been filling in for Andy Lee, who's having a baby. Maybe not him personally, but his significant other. The day a man can give birth through his anus, I hope I'll be dead, because I don't want to see it.
Dr. Church.
I will not be giving birth to that baby.
And then so what happened was I was talking to my buddies in my band Overloaded from Detroit way back in the day. And it's one of the bands that really started to take off. Like all my bands before that, I don't know if anybody was, you know, they were never got past that local band level. And Overloaded started to get people who are into it. And like that band sold CDs like internationally. The timing came out where it's like, you know what? I'm not touring with anybody right now. I don't have band rehearsals. I'm not recording a record right now. Why don't we do a reunion show? And finally, you know, everyone's like, you know what? Why don't we do that? Someone booked a show and it was like, wanted us to be on it. Some Detroit bands from that era. And we'd love to have Overloaded on it. I'm like, there you go. Finally, there's a reason for us to get together.
This is it! We need you now! I will orchestrate! Hey! 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 Like it's 2005! We need your hot asses! Get your fucking hands in the air! Hey, you with a blue shirt! You gotta get it up! Come on! Every fucking person! Blue glasses! You hot motherfucker with the camera! That's when I drink Bud Light! I will call the
Eric, like, yeah, I mean, that's what the documentary is all about, right? He's a true lifer, man. He was going to do it no matter what.
It's this validation that what you're doing actually has merit. And it's really fulfilling when the plan comes through and when the mission is accomplished.
As far as San Diego, it had its heyday in the late 90s, early 2000s. A lot of people were calling it the next Seattle and all that shit. It never really panned out to be the next Seattle.
It seems like there used to be more clubs back then, the smaller clubs that we could play at. A lot of them have gone under, or they've kind of restricted who they're letting in since 2020 and 2019. So before that, it seemed like it was easier to get shows because there were a lot more clubs. Now we have like maybe 6 or 8 of them that really support this kind of music. So
It's kind of, I kind of see it like high school, where there's different cliques of music, and they all kind of play the same bars and clubs and everything. A lot of the indie rock bands, they have specific clubs that they play at. And then like the metal and heavier bands, they don't usually play at those bars.
There's some in the San Diego scene. There's a little bit of clickiness to parts of the San Diego scene. I mean, I don't think the heavy psych scene really has much involvement with the heavy rock side much.
It's still a really good scene, but I think everything's just kind of spread out a little bit. Whereas back in the day, everything, it was kind of intermixed with each other. Like there was funk, there was metal, there was new metal, there was indie, and it all kind of like, you could see all of those bands at one club, but it's not really like that anymore.
And so what's interesting is when you have two kind of part A and part B sides of things, it's unfortunate.
It's difficult to navigate the local scene, I think. And getting on a lot of those touring bills as an opening act, it's difficult as well. The promoters have their go-to bands, and we're not one of them apparently, so.
Yeah, exactly. Look out. Yeah. SoCal Heavy Jam started out with my brother and I, Kip, Paige, trying to figure out how can we make a cool scene here or a cool festival here in San Diego with our buddies and, kind of make it a fun deal. And we just basically going up and having some breakfast up there at the 19th hole. We would sit there and just chop it up about what do we want to do? How's this going to work out? What do we want to see? Who do we want to see?
What a cool idea that, Kip, Nacho, and Jason came up with. Outstanding lineups where they were able to capitalize on a lot of the great bands that are down there.
There's not a lot of that type of music out here in San Diego, especially in one place at one time.
First time setting up. Get it all set up. It's just a really rewarding, different side of music a little bit. Even I think I'd really love it, even if I stopped and I got out of the band. I think I'd really still enjoy putting it on. Things kind of changed for me a little bit, and I decided to kind of focus on some other things, more like my family, and doing some traveling with Lindy, my girlfriend, who I met about a year ago, which really changed my life a lot. So,
you know, finding out about Kip kind of retiring here recently, it's that makes me a little nervous about some aspects of the San Diego scene, particularly on the heavy rock, stoner rock. He was a guy that definitely was out there trying to get people to be involved, to come to shows, to drag people to shows, you know.
You know, I worked for FedEx for 23 years, and I kind of got rotator cuff issues in my shoulders, some back issues, and it started kind of peaking a little last year.
He's like the gentle giant. I mean, that's the best way to word the guy. I've never met a human being that would help you out regardless of what it cost him, you know? And I don't know anybody that would say anything bad about Kip. There's probably a few people that would say some bad stuff about me, but not Kip.
Kip was just a nice, great part of pulling people in and getting shows going. He's going to be missed. It's plain and simple, going to be missed as part of that whole scene.
And I always said, you know, like I'd always play until like it just became, you know, basically physically it was a big one, you know, when it just starts to it starts to hurt.
Always fun to be around. The drinks are always flowing. He likes to treat people to a good time. I think SoCal Heavy Jam's an extension of that. He just likes to, you know, organize events for people to have fun at.
So yeah, I know we're here and I'm, you know, hanging it up, but we'll see what the future holds. You know, there's always, you never know, but it probably won't be anything like Formula 400, but you know, it might, you know, I might be able to do something a couple times a year or something like that.
I think Kip just really loved being part of the scene as well as playing, and we're gonna miss Kip. I mean, we really are going to miss Kip not being in part of the scene as he retires. Enjoy other things in life, you know.
Check 1, 2, what the Winstons? I can't hear you. That's more like it.
This is an amazing night. I mean, seriously, SoCal Heavy Jam, a bunch of friends throwing down on a great stage with an amazing sound system. Like, everything I heard on stage was perfect. It was great.
The ability to have like 9 or 10 bands that sound, you know, kind of in that stoner genre or whatever, it's helping grow the scene here for sure.
One of the premier scenes for heavy rock in America.
The new bass player, Anthony Russo, he'll be playing tonight, and super cool guy, great bass player. I'm thrilled. I'm excited for him. They're carrying on. Not to toot my own horn, but I was there assisting, and I actually found Anthony. So, you know, I was involved and, you know, wanted to find a good replacement because you know, I wanted the band to go forward. I didn't want it to implode because I was leaving. So, you know, and you know, I'm just thrilled. So, and I think they are too. So
there's always going to be a group of heads that are going to want to listen to that style of music. So I think what we've tapped in with SoCal Heavy Jam and our little San Diego crew is that there is a group of knuckleheads that like this stuff, and I think we're having a freaking blast doing it. And there ain't no reason just because we're older to shut it down. Let's just keep doing it and having a good time.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, sweetheart. Thank you so much.
Yeah, cheers.
Hold them up to all my friends and loved ones. Hey, life is precious. We ain't promised manani. Enjoy the day. We've got a lot of friends and family that ain't doing so hot. Love all you guys. Thanks for coming out. Appreciate y'all. Appreciate what we got. Love you. Here we go.
Yeah, and you know, we're always looking at, I mean, I think you're always looking at maybe bigger and better or bigger bands. And so, you know, it's always kind of a struggle to figure out, you know, who should we invite, who's available, you know, how much are some of these bands going to cost. And some of that's all, you know, it's just kind of different to kind of toil over that aspect of music opposed to being in a band and just playing. But that's the whole cool thing about putting on something like that.
The music's solid. It's one of our, I'd say, main cities. You know, Austin, Texas probably is the biggest city for our scene anywhere in America.
But I mean, truth be told, yeah, it's flattering, and it's kind of cool to sit back and just realize, like, shit, I guess we have built a little stoner rock, heavy rock, little scene for ourselves, and just from doing what we like to do, kicking with my buddy, we go have beers, we go have breakfast, and we just shoot the shit about music.
San Diego is historically, this last 15 years or so, been an amazing outlet of good music coming out.
Oh, shit.
I never really thought of it as sacrifices, because it's, I mean, there are hard times. And there are times when you have to do what you don't feel like doing. I mean, especially if you're going to succeed. But the challenges are when everything doesn't seem to be working out to keep going. Because there is that thing where people nag on you, girlfriends and parents and people that think they care about you. They're like, you know, with your talent, you can make so much money if you did this, if you did that. Why are you like struggling? That's the sacrifice, is just working for the man your whole life and then, you know, end up with a handful of dimes.
You know, I never made much money doing it, but again, it's for the love of the music. And I think for 90% of, you know, the older guys like me that are out there still playing, I think it's the same thing. We know our clock is done, or our time is up, but we just do it because we like to do it. You know, it's fun, and I don't know, it kind of keeps us young, I guess.
Does it keep you young? It does at heart, but it is very physically demanding. And that's, you know, it's not like taking a vacation where you sit on a beach and have a couple Easy Rider beers. I think it's more like you're working, but it's a labor of love, but you're still exhausted at the end of the day.
You know, it's having joy in life. You know, so I think at this point there's no illusions of grandeur. There's no, you know, wanting to be a rock star. There's no way anyone could be a rock star anymore. So, yeah.
I think the dream never dies. But like we talked earlier today, and it's just like we all realize that it really, you know, to become a rock star at middle age, so to speak, quote unquote. You know, I mean, if rock stars even really exist, other than the group of people that was there already,
I still believe music is a live being, and if you treat it disrespectfully, it'll bitch slap you with no mercy. Music's brought me everything. It's taken me all over the world. I believe it's truth. The amount of time I put into it, I get it back. And there's not very many things in this world that do that for you, that's honest. As soon as you apply the dollar to it, though, it becomes unhonest, unfortunately.
It's really hard when you know that music is your thing and the rest of the world isn't listening. Sometimes it's painful. Sometimes really, really painful because old blood is getting older.
Being a lifer and doing the on stage thing forever is being a warrior. To feel that energy that is provided from a crowd when you entertain the shit out of them, and there is nothing like it.
Some guys have the gift, but they don't have the other passion and work ethic for it to see it through, man. And you can only try so much as a songwriter and visionary and musicians to try to. You can't force people, you know. It's just like getting someone to quit an addiction. You know, you can't. You can fucking try to hold them down and force them to do it all you want, but they don't do it till they want to, man. And that's the same thing with music.
But like again, it goes back to is like what gives me a create is like that's my prime motivation is to make things that nobody's seen before and to really make it like so people are blown away by it. That's so satisfying, and not everybody is. I mean, not everybody likes it. So it's like you just got to be okay with that as well, of course.
I think most musicians have had that experience where you're playing and you're not even thinking about, you're literally not thinking about anything. And everyone's cruising along together and you suddenly sort of decide to notice and people are digging it. And I look back at Ruben and he's either just like, you know, going like that, which he does a lot, or he's smiling. And it's those moments, you know, I think.
I did sacrifice a lot. It was all, you know, it was my choice. The experiences that I've had, you know, touring and stuff. I mean, I never had a huge tour. I never played massive arenas or anything. But to be perfectly honest, I wouldn't trade those experiences for anything.
It's about who's got the passion, man, you know? Who's into music for real? You know, 35 freaking years later, we still doing, I mean, I'm not trying to suck my own pee-pee, but I mean, it's like, oh, I dig it, man. I love this shit. It's real. It's legit. I'm going to keep doing it. If nobody we ever got to be interviewed or if we never made an album, I'd still be in here fucking.
And I would have to be incapacitated to not perform at this point. I've been doing it for so long. When people go, let Ozzy retire or whatever they say out there, it's like, that's not, like, what is retirement when you're doing music? You know, like, you don't retire from it. You have to stop. Something stops you from doing it.
One thing, musicians never retire, you know, because it's just always in you. Yeah, it's always there.
Yeah, I just feel very fortunate. And my last gig was at Ripple Fest, so I mean, kind of went out on top, and I loved it. But you know, I'll always be here. I'll be going out to shows. I'll be supporting Formula always. We actually kind of toyed around with doing something with SoCal Heavy Jam. So we might put together a special set with the members of SoCal Heavy Jam. So we're kind of toying around with something like that. It didn't happen this year, but next year it probably will.
It's kind of remarkable. It's kind of hard to explain. And you know, after every practice, I go upstairs and I'm just wound up as if I did a show. The energy's still the freaking same. So, and I just love it, and I can't see myself stopping it.
I don't know. I don't see how I myself could be happy without having music in my life. You know, I mean, I can listen to it. We could all listen to music and it affects us. But, you know, there's something about kicking a bass drum and there's subwoofers underneath the stage and you feel it, you know, and you know, like tonight's going to be a good show, man,
But even playing in front of 30 people is a fucking thrill.
But still, it's like, God dang, man, thank God. I mean, because you get older, you think that, all this rock and roll is done. Everybody's married. Everybody's doing their own fucking thing. Everybody's got their own job to do. And it's, you figure when you're younger, like, there's no way I'll be able to do that then. And it's like, well, God dang, we're blessed as crud to be still able to do it. And we got cats that want to rock out. That's huge.
I don't know. If I was going to do it for, fame and fortune, I would have quit a long time ago. It's all for the love of music.
Why am I still doing it? And sometimes it doesn't make any sense because there's no money in it. So it's multifaceted on so many levels. Playing music is like, it's a craft. You're crafting a physical product, you're crafting an entertainment, you're crafting an energy. And if it's good, then it's good for everyone involved, and that's why you still do it.
Because I don't really think I would enjoy being alive if I couldn't play.
It's such a hard thing to explain. Would you call it an addiction? Why do I still do this? Well, yes, I'm addicted to it. Why do I still do this? Because it's really the only thing I've ever really done consistently. I can't stop doing it. Why do I do it? Because the easiest answer, because I love doing it.
I have to do it. It's in my blood. It's who I am. It's what I know.
Going to war for the sake of the music, for the sake of art, for the sake of rock and roll, by continuing to do it again and again, and got nothing but respect for the lifers.
I think lifers, that's definitely the term.